Tyler Walker, also making this group.
Jeff Coleman, I teach at Elmore.
Jason Buyaki, School Board, Urbana District.
Jen Sublett, one of the lead coaches in the Department of Instruction and former teacher at Rushmore. Just to balance everything.
And Tony Borash, also one of Jen's compatriots over here, is one of the lead coaches and former teacher at Albemarle High School. So.
But we love Monticello.
But we love Monticello too. Former connections to Monticello as well, right? In all sorts of fun different ways.
Well, I went to Albemarle and I studied.
They see,
Oh,
we love
wow.
our small town.
So you can really play.
Just stand right on the
You got full
little goal of
experience.
the football field.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just getting off work.
What's Western's, I guess, mascot?
The Warriors.
Warriors?
Yes, we are the Warriors.
So it's sort of a Trojan.
Yeah, it's very
Trojan
rural.
Trojan Warrior.
Yeah.
Let's make
Very
sure to
much
follow
not a
that.
Native American warrior.
Yeah,
Warrior.
Well, you don't want to just leave Trojan hanging out there. I mean,
Right.
Science teachers.
this is what we get for hanging around teenagers all day.
Yes, definitely.
Maybe Mesa kids don't talk like that, I don't know.
You hear some stuff sometimes that you don't want to hear.
Yeah, I hear plenty of things I don't want to hear, but
Or we should do
yeah.
Well, it's part of the relationship, right?
It
it.
is.
That is true, it's definitely part of the relationships.
Okay, so the last thing.
That's the relationship.
What's that?
And then.
Yeah.
We have a flashlight here.
Do you need an uncle?
I do.
What?
Okay, yes, I did not bring, because they told me that we would have connections, so I did not bring my dongle.
I did. It's like Mary Poppins bag, a lampshade right around the house, a
Always
car. Small child.
Exactly.
Is it over? Yeah, that's us. Did we already get
Good,
it?
then you can.
Oh, we already got that. That's
Physics.
fine.
Exactly. I'm just into social studies lead coach.
Now, y'all can tell I'm shy because I'm just connecting and just like,
Exactly.
nobody else volunteered, so I'm jumping in and going first.
We can have everyone.
Feel free to cut me off so that other people get the opportunity to talk.
I'm the same way.
I'm just like Sandra McLaughlin.
You want me to go until?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Carrie.
Sure.
Okay.
Nope.
Never mind.
Nope.
Took
Already got it.
Oh, man.
Take 2 minutes. I will have all.
That's all right. Mine's supposed to
I have
do well,
less
so
stuff
I
in my
was
bag.
accused of stealing it every time I use
Well,
it. So really to give
his
it.
bag wasn't as deep, so,
It's not.
because he's not a woman. He probably didn't have like the apple juice and stuff like that.
Put none of that fun stuff in my bag.
Sounds like it.
The only thing is, I'm gonna,
It takes a little while to warm up.
Okay.
just a second.
Probably.
Okay, well, while that's warming up, do y'all mind if I start? And, like,
Go for
just
it.
a little, thing. The first thing I thought that I would share is how I got to this, just really quickly. So last fall, I went to Tony and Laura Shiflett, Tony Borash and Laura Shiflett, who are 2 of our instructional coaches. And I had this great idea of something that I wanted to do. I wanted to write a grant. I wanted them to help me write a grant. And so I went and I said, this is the grant that I want to write. This is why I want to write it. Help me get started on this. And so what ended up happening was Laura Shiflett, and Tony sat there patiently and listened to me and all of my ideas. And then I followed that up with another meeting, just one-on-one with Laura Shiflett. And I said, she sat me down and we started thinking. She said, okay, Michelle, what we need to think about is how do you want to change the way chemistry is taught at Western Albemarle High School? She said, we need to think big picture, okay, before we get into specific requests. And I said, okay. And so I started digesting and chewing on that question. It was a great question. And I can honestly say that before last fall, I hadn't really thought about that question. And it started my wheels spinning. And over the next 6 months, I engaged in a full sort of research study, one might say. I dug so deeply into student data. It was very interesting. I started looking at literacy data for my students. I started looking at math data for my students. searching for files that I never even knew existed, you know, so forth and so on. So I really dug my hands down in the dirt and said, I want to know more about the kids I'm teaching. And specifically, I want to find out if I can find any patterns and identify any trends that might explain why certain students are successful and certain students are not. And Tony helped me with this. I would send him Excel spreadsheets with student names and data, and he would put all of this data into a spreadsheet and develop a trend line, and then he would send it back to me. And so there was all of this conversation, this three-way conversation going on between me, Tony, and Laura. And ultimately, I was able to come up with a method for identifying students who would be at risk for not succeeding in chemistry. And I did this actually in a two-tiered way. I looked both at my kids that were in first-year chemistry. So I teach standard chemistry, advanced chemistry, organic chemistry, and AP chemistry at Western now. And I looked at my standard and advanced kids, and I analyzed their data individually. And I also looked at my AP kids. And so I tried to identify what makes them successful, what makes them not successful, and discovered a lot about my students. And it was a really sort of wonderful process to go through. And as part of the grant, I then went back to that question. Okay, so how is this going to change how we teach chemistry at Western? And it literally made me develop a proposal. This is what I think I want to do to reach these at-risk students. To changes, you know, on the ground, every day, real-life changes that I could make to be able to reach those students and help them see some success that they have never seen before. And so that's where this all started. And by the end of the year, this past school year, I decided that I wanted to learn about flipped learning, and I decided that I wanted to learn about mastery learning, and that I wanted to create a flipped mastery classroom. And so then I attended a virtual conference over the summer. It was the Flipped Learning Network Conference, run by Jonathan Bergman and Aaron Sams in Chicago in June. And I spent 2 days attached to my computer, going in and out of, virtually, different conference sessions. And I literally was emailing and texting Laura Shiflett the entire day. This is the most amazing conference I have ever been to. And I hadn't even left my living room. I was sitting on my couch the entire time. And it was phenomenal. And I was at a wonderful keynote session via my computer. Keep in mind, I did not go to Chicago. Okay, so I was in this keynote session with a man by the name of Brian Bennett. And if you've never heard of this man, you've got to get on his Twitter feed. Phenomenal. He is only, at this point, I think, a third-year teacher. He teaches in Seoul, Korea. He is an American, and he is embarked in, on this flipped learning thing, and he regularly blogs and goes around the world talking about his experiences on the ground, teaching through this method, and it's wonderful. But in his keynote session, he said one thing that really hit home with me, and he said, before you do any of this, you've got to ask yourself one question, and that question is, what do you want your learning space to look like? And I was like, oh, wow, I need to change my learning space? Oh, okay, I think I might actually need to change my learning space to do this whole thing. And so then I emailed Jen. And I said, so I decided, I'm just gonna pull every coach I can possibly pull into this. I'm sort of drawing on all of their expertise. And I called in Jen, and I said, Jen, we need to meet. I need you to come and sit with me in my classroom. I need you to look at what my classroom is right now. And we need to brainstorm about what I can turn my classroom into. Because I need to create a different learning space to teach the way I want to teach and reach students differently. And so we met the week before school. And so the first thing I wanted to show you is what my room looked like before Jen and I met. Okay, so here we go, and I'll just see. I don't know if I can get down there. Tony, do you know how to lower the resolution a little bit so that I can get to the button that says slideshow?
Should be a settings button down at the bottom of the scanning for it. Probably do it
That's what I'm trying to get down to. You know what I'm talking about? If I take this out, I know that I can get to it. And then plug that in. Hold on. That might be a faster way. We'll see. There we go. And then I'm going to go
actually like do a Kent Burns, yeah, there you go.
Okay. It does? Okay, you know
Just
what?
try double clicking on the picture.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so I had desks and they were in rows. And guess where they all faced? They all faced the front of the classroom. And so I used to stand right up there in front of the board, and I would get back and forth. The angle, what you can't see right now is the smartboard. I would get back and forth between the chalkboard and the smartboard, and the chalkboard and the smartboard, and the chalkboard and the smartboard. And the kids were stationary in their desks, okay? And then, let's see if I can get to,
Your arrow, right?
here we go.
There it goes.
There we go, see, the front. All right, and my desk was over there in the right-hand corner. All right, so when I wasn't in direct lecture, I was sitting at that desk, you know, controlling either a slideshow or something else like that. Okay, there's the other angle. This was the back of the room, so I have a chalkboard in the back of the room. It's never been used for anything other than what quotes did Mrs. Karpovich say during the course of the day. My students love to take things out of context and put them, so it was basically a famous quote of the day board. And you know, that was another teacher desk where my student teacher used to sit. All right, so that was my room then. All right, and then I want to get back to what my room looks like now. This is the back, folks. The board that used to be the famous quote of the day board has now turned into a place where we track students and what they're doing. Okay, in the Flipped Mastery learning, if you don't know anything about it, I can tell you that this is differentiation on steroids. Okay, and so we just developed this tracking system in the last 2 weeks, and this was Laura Shiflett's idea. And every student has now said, this is the most amazing thing, and it has saved my life. All we did was, I have 3 standard and advanced classes, and we printed out all of my students' names. We put them on different colored sheets of paper. So every class period has a different color sheet of paper. And so like this past 4 weeks, my students have been working on Unit 2. And each unit is now broken into modules of instruction, so that there are just a couple of key concepts that are taught in each module. And students have to take a quiz at the end of each module, and they have to master it before they can move on. They have to get 80% before they can move on. And sometimes that means that they retake quizzes 8 times. All right? I have never worked harder in my life than I have this year. But I have also never enjoyed my job more than I am this year. I can say that with all honesty. But I'm not getting to spend very much time with my family. I'm hoping that'll change a little bit. But this just shows, you know, the entire class, the students, as well as the teachers, where everybody is. You know, so I've got some students down here at the very beginning of Unit 2. Some of these kids are actually kids who have just transferred in, and so they had to start from scratch, and so they've got a little bit of a learning curve. You know, the majority of kids here are my kids that are racing as fast as they can go, and they're actually going faster even than I can. I definitely have those kids as well. So they are moving on into Unit 3 right now. But this is just our tracking system, how we tell where everybody is, and also they just get perspective of how am I doing with respect to the rest of the class. And for some kids, it provides them just enough incentive to go, hey, wait a minute, I'm falling behind. I need to catch up. And so they get busy. All right, and what you'll also see in front of this board is I have 6 student desks. When I came back to school this summer, my very first day back into the classroom, the first thing I did was take pictures of the way it looked before. The second thing I did was I threw every single desk out of the classroom. And then I brought 8 desks back in, but the desks are now only there for holding the computers. So one of my administrators was able to sort of get 6 laptop computers, and I still have the desktop computer that's part of the classroom. And so now we have 7 computers that students have access to anytime throughout the day, and especially during class. And we wanted to do this to ensure that students who did not have computer access at home, who don't have internet access, those types of things, that they still have access in the classroom. So we've got 4 student desks in the back of the room for the computers, and we've got 3 in the front of the room for the other 3 computers. My lab stations, okay, which are no longer just lab stations, created a reading nook. All of this is basically with repurposed, reduce, reuse, recycle types of materials. The carpet was pulled out of my attic because it wasn't being used at my house. The shelves that you see as bookshelves over there, well, bookshelves. And I did go to Target and invest $80 in some comfortable chairs. But this has basically become our reading nook. And, you know, some students like to sit there and do their reading. And you'll also see now exercise balls. We added in 6 or 7 exercise balls into the room for comfortable seating for the students. And they do actually race to class to try to be the first ones in so that they can have the balls to sit on. Yeah.
You jumped past the lab stations. I was
Yeah.
kind of looking for them in the before.
Uh-huh.
Did you have
They-
lab
they-
facilities in there or not
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
before?
This was all there before. That hasn't
So that's
changed.
in the back. You just didn't
Yes.
show those areas
Yes.
in those initial pictures. the
Yeah, they
before.
are fixed. Those are
Okay.
things that I can't
That makes
move,
sense.
and I don't want to. But I can
Yeah.
tell you that they're getting used more now than they ever were in the traditional classroom.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So there's our reading nook for the exercise balls. Again, I told you I threw out all of the student desks. We were able to steal a kidney table. I believe that came from Scottsville. I don't remember. But we found one in the county that wasn't being used by an elementary school, and they gave it away to us. And then the tables here, the long rectangular tables, those actually came from our library when our library was redecorated. So again, what you'll see is all of and there you go. And those are the computers in the front of the room. Now, I can tell you what I have discovered, quite frankly, I don't need these student desks. The kids do not, what they do is they go, they pick up their laptop, they unplug it from the power source in the room. Comfortable spot is for them, whether it's the reading nook, whether it's at one of the long tables, whether it's at a lab table. Some kids actually go and work into the hall. We actually spill out of my classroom now. And so we're all over the place. They don't actually go and stay at these desks to use them, so I'll probably throw those out next year. Okay, so that's what it is now. And then the last thing right here that I wanted to show you is what does it look like, you know, on a typical day. These are just still images. You know, what do the students look like while they're engaged in their learning, you know, in my classroom. So again, you can see this is Noah, and Noah is sitting on one of the exercise balls. I told you that they're quite popular with all the kids. And he is choosing right now to work independently. There are a few students in every class who still like to work independently, so that hasn't changed. There's just some people that's what they like. Okay, this is Andrew. Andrew is one of my kids that is constantly working so fast that I have trouble keeping the pace with him. And in fact, what you see him doing right here is he has actually decided, because he is moving so successfully through the advanced chemistry curriculum, we differentiated for him, and he has actually decided to go for honors credit. So this particular student is at this moment taking an honors level test in a standard and advanced level classroom. And he said that he, you know, loves this learning environment because it's enabled that opportunity for him. And he doesn't have the pressure. You know, he can take it. If he doesn't succeed, he's like, okay, then I'm okay with the honors credit.
So, in a traditional classroom, would he be one that would become bored because he's
Absolutely.
not engaged fully?
Absolutely, which is one of the reasons why I started this whole thing. You know, I knew that my teaching was working for probably 80 to 90% of my kids. Our SOL scores show it. You know, we've had many years with 100% pass rates, but I always knew that I had kids at the top that were bored, and I had kids at the bottom that were being dragged along and were never learning a single thing. And some of them failed, but were still in the class the whole year, and some of them got by with D's even though they didn't pass a single test, and they did that because they knew how to play school. And so I decided to come upon sort of this whole flipped mastery learning so that I could address those two extremes. I wanted to be able to meet the needs of my low-level learners and my high-level learners, because I knew that everybody in the middle was going to do fine regardless of what learning environment that I had. And so far, that's exactly what I'm seeing. And so I actually have right now about 5 kids out of a total of 3 classes that have all decided, because of what they're doing in this environment, that they want to try for the honors credit. So they're doing honors level, you know, worksheets. I've taught all of the levels, and so I know what the difference in terms of curriculum is and in terms of requirements. And so I just do essentially some extended learning and enrichment for them, and then tell them this is the X, Y, and Z that you need to know beyond the advanced level curriculum. This is what you would have to do to try the honors. They do it, and then he chose to take the honors test, and he did great.
One more question.
Yeah.
So, it sounds like you don't have a typical day, but
No.
what's your typical day like?
That's a great question. And Trevor Przewski, another instructional coach, is actually going to be able to help you out with that. Trevor visited my classroom twice this week, Tuesday and Thursday, in 2 different class periods. He got to come to my class that's very small. I have one class that only has about 15 kids in it. I have another class that has 27 kids in it. And he got to come to both of those. And what he did was videotape. And he's going to try to pull together like a 5-minute montage so that you can see what the quote-unquote typical day looks like. And I would be happy to like share that with you once. I mean, in terms of me answering you like a chicken with my head cut off, I literally move around. I said to my student teacher the first day that she arrived this year, I said, I really hope you brought your running shoes. And she looked at me and she was like, do we have to run together? Because she knows I am also physically a runner. And I'm like, no, like that's what you're going to need to survive in this classroom this year. And she said, I'm up for the challenge, and she is phenomenal. She's doing a great job in it. But a typical day, you see me in a class period doing small group instruction. You see me putting students on labs. You see me putting students together because I will find someone who is struggling. I will then go and find another student who I know is an expert in that particular content area. I pull them together, and as long as I have their permission, and I'm like, Ryan, can you please explain this to Marlena? Because Ryan is an expert, Marlena is struggling. Yes, that sounds great. So I put them together. In the meantime, I have 50 different people during the class period saying, I'm ready to take Unit 2, Module 7, version A, you know, of the quiz. And so I probably administer and grade somewhere around 60 or 70 quizzes per class period. Like that's what the kids are doing. So I move a lot. So I have a feeling I'm going to be on a very good weight maintenance program this year. But yeah, so that's Andrew taking an honors level test. My kids love the reading room. These are guys completely like, they put the earbuds in, they sit down, they do their worksheets. When they're done, they come up, they check the worksheets, they talk to us, they tell us what they've had trouble with, and then we go from there. I know it's hard to see in the background. This was Jen's idea. But the windows, we also have markers at all of the windows. So some of the kids actually go up to the windows and use that as their writing space. So they have boards, they have windows, they have just about, you know, computers, they've got everything, almost everything that they need. But these guys are engaged in individual instruction right there. This is my student teacher, Ann Rose. She has just graded a 5-question formative assessment quiz at the end of a kid finishing a module. And one of the things that has become so important with this Flip Mastery learning environment is that we grade the quiz immediately. We immediately give them feedback. So we are having, you know, 70 conversations with kids, you know, during a class period of, this is what you missed, this is what you got right, here is what the misconception was that you had, let's fix it now. The student goes, oh my gosh, I was constantly putting that in the numerator when it needed to be in the denominator, you know, and getting that. And then they're like, okay, I've got it, boom, let me retake that quiz. So now they take version B. And so that's why I say, even though we might have 26 people in a class, I probably give 70 quizzes a class period. Because as soon as they get that immediate feedback, they go ahead and retake. So that's Anna Rose getting some of that feedback on a formative assessment.
Michelle, as we're looking at the different pieces, I just know
Yeah.
we're gonna need to be able to move.
I know. I
So
told you I
make
could talk
sure
for an
we
entire
do
hour.
it.
But there you go. Kids form their own groups, so they find people that are working at the same pace. They work together, and there you go. Okay. So, anyways, once that video is ready from Trevor, I would love to share it with you so that you can see what it
Sure,
looks
we'll
like for
find that
all of
out there
us.
and,
I think it would be neat to
On the
see.
website
It's,
somewhere.
I can't wait to see it. He said that he was going to have it for me tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to it.
He's a
So
machine.
it is. And the other thing that I have that I would love to share with you, and I know that I don't have time to do that right now, but one of the things that I have here is a student panel. And so this morning, these are 5 kids who have finished the current unit and they're ready to move on to the next unit. And I asked them, I said, would you take, you know, 5 or 10 minutes to sit down with me and just let me ask you the question, what has this learning environment done for you? What has that changed for you? And so I have to honestly say, I just did this morning, and I did it with my iPhone, so the quality is not the greatest, but it's the information that I wanted is there. I cried at the end of it because it was amazing. This young girl in the middle, her name is Megan, and Megan said, I have not enjoyed school so much since I was in kindergarten. She said, I have never felt, since I was in kindergarten, I haven't felt this connected to a teacher. I haven't felt this comfortable with a teacher, with a classroom, the way that instruction is happening. And, you know, she said, I no longer feel, you know, like in the traditional classroom, constantly under a microscope, that they have eyes on them, and that asked the dumb question and got stared at, you know, and so forth. And so in this class, I feel safe to take those types of risks. And I know that if I come up and have a small group discussion with you, I can ask my question and I know that nobody else is listening. So it doesn't matter how dumb my question is. And I'm like, well, the question is only dumb if you don't ask it. That's always my response. But, you know, they're like, but we feel comfortable in here. We feel more connected to you as a... The thing that I find truly amazing is I now have at least, without my asks, to be in my classroom during their school. They want to be here because they feel comfortable in the learning space. And for me, makes the 80 hours a week or whatever, you know, that I'm putting in and the 70 quizzes per class period that I'm grading, it makes it all worth it. And that's why I say, you know, I'm working harder than I've worked in my 15 years, and I'm enjoying my job more than I ever have. So there you go.
I don't need to know.
Okay. But you need the speaker.
Well, not really. I'm gonna skip through a lot of things too. This is a PowerPoint that I put together because I've been working, like Michelle, on a grant proposal, and I was lucky enough to get one of the seed grants from the technology, and so I wanted to sort of show you what it started out with. The thought of, I was an engineer and I always like to do things my way. You know, I don't want to play in the world of the normal teacher. I want to go and explore. So what I came up with is, I call it Physics as You Like It. And it's to allow students to create their own path through physics, whether it's saying you want to learn about circuits. It would be to divine what are the skills you have to have before you can learn about circuits, and sort of build that web of what all the topics are, so you could go in and, you know, you can bang them out as fast as you want or as slow as you need to, till you get to the point where you can learn about it in an automated, technology-based way, because I have 130 some odd students. And poor Michelle, and she is a student teacher, I hate to see what's going to happen when her student teacher leaves. But
Trying to get her hired as a TA.
but look at, you know, what can you build with technology to sort of help facilitate that, and provide a wide variety of activities where kids can have, that maybe there's, you know, 8 different activities and they're weighted differently, so they have to do, you know, 3 of those and 2 of those, or some combination, whatever. You know, if they like hands-on, they want to learn that way, have resources so they can do that. If they want to see lectures, so the goal would be to have a lot of online stuff so that I can do the bouncing around that Michelle does.
Exactly.
So that same kind of, you know, formative environment where you can get them. Just so you know, this is what I walked into when I came back from school, because they pulled, my room was 1978 Western Albemarle School, avocado green walls, and walls of those upper bookshelves of nothing but cabinets on either side. And I have classes of, some years 30 in this physics room, which I don't think was ever designed for any more than about 20. So it was pretty bad. But the things I had to think about when I did this was remodeling the room, rethinking presentations, reevaluating problem solving, remembering learning styles, and realizing that learning doesn't just happen in the classroom. So those are all my R's.
6. Since no longer 3.
So this is what my classroom became. So they pulled cabinets off the walls. I have a floor-to-ceiling wall that is nothing but a whiteboard. And I have students that go up and they draw on it and draw, you know, and do problem solving, and sometimes they're at desks using computers. So, and then I have 8 42-inch flat screen monitors mounted on the walls. Because the kids have, I am part of the one-to-one physics deployment, so every student has a laptop. So we're doing, they're working on problem sets on their computers. They might be doing Microsoft Excel, using Microsoft Excel based on lab data that they've collected. And so I had a couple of kids, this is a little video put together, I'm going to skip through it, that they were actually using toy cars, measuring time, and building position time graphs. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to go from that where you're using a stopwatch in times to more of a flat screen monitor. So the picture on the left, if you want to think about it as a learning space for a group of students. So each one of those little 2 drawers and a cabinet, plus the monitor, plus the top, would be sort of a learning environment where it's a tool chest of physics things. And they can pull out meter sticks and rulers and sensors and stuff, whatever they might need that they want to explore that day, they pull that stuff out and then they just do. And part of it is building an individualized learning plan for those students to do that kind of a thing. So there's going to be 4 fixed on one side and then 4 mobile on the other. So they can pick them up and roll them somewhere if they want to go out in the cafeteria and use the hall, but they want to take it with them. But on the right-hand side is what we've done is we've actually taken one of the small Lenovo laptops, connected it to the large screen, and they're actually using the sensors and looking and actually being able to stand back 3 or 4 feet and actually look at it and see what's going on, not on these little 12-inch screens. And I can have them watching videos, groups watching videos, hooked in there, working on different kinds of videos, creating videos. There's video software on the laptop, so it's an entire big. All right, now presentations. These are 2 pieces of software that I would love to have if I ever had the money. But what we're finding is there's more and more research going on in how to provide e-learning tools. So hybrid learning, quality, engaging resources. You have to have them available long term. You can't shut them off. You have to use both traditional and electronic resources. Existing ones. I am not afraid to go out and borrow Tony Wayne stuff. And every other physics teacher's out on the planet. You have to mix hard copy and electronic resources. You have to link to learning standards. You can't do traditional learning in this country. You have a spider web of learning. And I will show you one that I did with John Walmsley for 1 year. It was just wanted to put a static picture with an audio track over it. This year, it has PowerPoint over it and presentations. You want embedded video, you want a human element on the screen. You want to see someone's face. It is not only do you want to just see the PowerPoint on the screen, you want to see face. One of the questions, maybe it was a multiple choice quiz because it forgot a unit conversion. Mistakes, this happens. And then it would take them somewhere else. Here are the kinds I have students doing all through the year. Videos, problems, spreadsheets, data experiments, work, and I'm going to thank Tony Wayne for this idea, for Excel, and it automatically next problem set. It took me a while to put it together, but it was excellent. The half of 1 year written out on my giant whiteboard with John Walmsley of how do you build one of these things and how do you connect together and what do you need hard copy and what do you need electronically, and it's a crazy spider web. So it's actually 4 of these. And we had a great time. Just as I'm looking at these things and going forward in math and problem, go beyond the Khan Academy video branching. Software to develop engaging, high-quality learning, and personally, tablet-style PC that I can actually turn on, where I can do the problem and it shows up as part of the video.
I second that. It's actually been my biggest stumbling block.
And having enough memory on the machines to process these videos that are not taking an hour or 2 hours to process them. That, in a nutshell, that's sort of in my classroom, and I could give you you could give me $800, I'll tell you which software to go buy. But it's a growing thing for me. I know it's a 5-year process, but I'm having a great time, having the best time I've had I'm overwhelmed, but I'm having the best time I've ever had in my life. And I'm done.
And her kids are in college.
My kids are in college, so I've got a little bit more time.
As I listened to both of your presentations, change is that you used to do a class instruction.
Yes, did on Monday and Tuesday was the first day that we had done whole class instruction since the first week of school. The unit and where like I said, it was the first time we had done it in 9 weeks.
I wish I didn't have to do as much as, I'm still trying to find my way, and I'm still doing a lot of whole class lectures, but I'm also doing a lot of mini videos where the kids are watching them maybe at home, maybe in class, and then doing problems, and I'm walking around. So it's a mix, but it's not as, there's more whole class lectures than I want it to be.
I had to abandon them because the whole class instruction does not work for the mastery learning process.
Yeah, and I'm just not there
And
yet.
since I embrace mastery,
Yeah, I'm going there, I'm just not there yet.
Sure, it's all a journey.
And I'm looking forward to having Michelle's classes next year, who have already been trained on all of it. And I can just use, I can just
Yeah.
jump in there and use it. So, I mean, there is a benefit to having 1 year of these kids having it behind me, so.
It's great just being able to highlight when we've got the little notes and organizers. I know people take their own notes in whatever way they do, but being able to have some of those questions in mind, specifically that one big one, we seem to be hearing about how the needs of our learners are impacting our instructional decisions. So being able to continue to hear these different examples and how we're shifting our
I
practice.
think the biggest thing that I learned is that how messy it is. And I don't like, I'm a linear thinker, engineer, I don't like messy.
we're type A, so this has
Not been,
So we've got kind of a unique situation here at Monticello, and in a lot of ways it's kind of a perfect storm. So this year we kind of are, putting together our Health and Medical Science Academy, and so one of the big focuses was, the learning space to accompany kind of a robust curriculum. For the first year, we have 23 ninth graders that were selected from a pool of applicants, and they are earning 2.5 credits, most of them, in one space. They're getting, has an SOL at the end, principles of biomedical science, their health one. Students who are taking GEM this year, since they're getting their Health 1 credit during the academy, then they will credit in, or half credit in research. And so it's a very robust kind of a situation, and so one of the things we decided to do is to integrate all the curriculums so that it was a seamless academic experience for the students. And so it was, interestingly enough, it was difficult for the students to realize that they're doing like 2.5 classes at the same time. So this is kind of the entryway to the space, and one of the nice things, the glass walls that they put up in one of our hallways, it actually created like a special place, and so it gave the academy an identity, it gives the students an identity, and it gives them a place to go.
Those would look great in my reading room. Jen?
I moved my traditional classroom upstairs so I could be in the academy hallway, but the room that we chose to utilize was actually previously a history and English class. And so it was not set up at all for any kind of science environment. So we basically had a blank slate to start from. The really cool things about the particular room we chose is that it was one that has sliding partition, which really makes it much more versatile because we can, like for instance, when we're doing our family life experience, and you have to separate the boys and the girls for some of those things, we can separate those rooms. We can, really create multiple spaces from that one place. Because there wasn't any kind of furniture, so to speak, in terms of for science, we had to come up with a way to make it work. So there's a couple things that we did. First, we opted for round tables, which is amazing. Just the level of collaboration that comes from them looking at each other and looking at me makes a whole big difference. The chairs are phenomenal. Basically, it's the same idea as the balls, the medicine balls. They rotate like full 360. You can sit in them both front and back. So they roll around so you can really reconfigure the classroom. But we also have a couple really fidgety students, and they have problems in their traditional classes sitting still,
Yes.
But in this classroom, they don't, which is very, very interesting. the tables fold up, slide away, and then we have mobile lab stations that we can bring into the classroom. These are the mobile stations. They live outside in the main hallway, and then we can roll them in as we kind of reconfigure. Just like with the screens, each one is equipped with screens so that we can plug in, we can do the flex cams, we can use digital scopes there, and so all the groups can kind of really work together and collaborate. The cabinetry there holds all the materials that they need, from glassware to their digital electronics that they need to work with. So here's kind of just a close-up of like how it would be all connected. In addition, the Rolly carts came with 32-inch screens, but they were too big to really be functional, so we're going to utilize those elsewhere. The library is going to create some flex spaces, and then we're going to have some mobile ones that they can wheel around. And then with the advent of Windows 8, one of the things we're hoping, there's some new technologies which will convert those touch screens. And so that will allow us to create little collaborative workstations where they can work and interact with a lot of the online tools that are available. In addition to that, we wanted to change the hallway and to create opportunities for collaboration. And so we have these amazing pieces of furniture. They're actually, they have charging stations, which allow for them to not worry about running out of juice. Constantly wanting to use this space. Our academy students, they're there during our Mustang morning time. They come and they stay during lunch. This is like their home now. It's really a kind of a nice place to go. Other students, come and visit in that area. On the back side, we're building kind of an outside library and kind of study cafe. Once again, like the tables that were purchased have little power stations in the middle, so they plug in and they can work and collaborate. We have math also and French that's still in the hallway with us, and they very thankfully use that same space to be able to collaborate. So here's just some of students doing their thing. One of the cool things with the curriculum that we're working with is we've really tried to get away from direct instruction. We're using case studies, small group. We have folks. We partner with the university. We have undergraduate students that come. We also are getting guest speakers from the actual world of and work with and teach the curriculum. One of the health safety people from UVA came on Friday to give our lab safety lecture, and just to make more authentic experience for the students. And they really, they're so enthusiastic and engaged. The energy is astounding. We're now going to actually have to create kind of a bigger sticky wall because they have so many questions. We can't get through them all in one sitting. So we just, all right, we'll have to just put it on the sticky wall. We'll bring it back, on Friday. Friday, 10 minutes, we'll take care of all the questions. But it's astounding just how much, a little tweak here and there can just really